Welcome to another body management video. I'm Tanya Ross. I'm going to take you through a stretch for your quadriceps muscles on the front of your thighs. So there's 4 parts to these muscles, but we're typically, whenever we're stretching, we're predominantly getting a little bit of each of them. And the higher that we go with the foot in behind us on this stretch, the more we're getting around the knee. The more we work on the action around the hip area, the more we get a little bit of the insertion that comes into the hip joint. So because it crosses over 2 joints, then we need to have almost like a double action. We can stretch them individually, but a double action is good to be able to get both parts of the muscle, if you like the upper and the lower sections. So with this stretch, in terms of balance, if it's not your strong point, then certainly you could have a chair nearby to hold on to, or the wall, so that you're going to feel steady on the way through. Now certainly this can be done lying on the floor, it can be done lying on your side, it can be lying on your tummy. So there are variations if you're finding that standing in the balance is an issue. But in this video we're just covering the standing position. So what I want you to do is take your weight onto your left leg. You're going to take a hold of the ankle up in behind. So I'm just going to turn to show you. And as you take your foot into that position, you can decide whether that's an option for you. Maybe if you're tight, you might have loose trousers on, you can take a hold of the trousers to get it into position. Or maybe you take the leg in front to be able to hold it, and then take the leg in behind. As whatever range of movement you're able to take it through. The other option is to hold around the toes, which can also give you a little bit of a stretch through the front of the shin as another add-on into that as a position. That's my preference, but I'm used to pointing my toes. For some people that might cause a cramp, so you could certainly go for the ankle. So I'm going to show you from there. And what I want you to do initially, whenever you come into this stretch, as you're holding it, your knee wants to be underneath your hip, and you're not collapsed on the standing leg side. It's active pushing down, but the knee isn't out to the side. If you can't get your knee underneath, you're very tight in there. So you want to make sure this is a stretch you definitely added onto your list, that you're trying to bring the knee underneath. So that's getting, the more you can get your knee to your bottom, the more that will increase that part of the stretch again on the lower section of the quads. But whenever you're doing this, I want you to notice that very often in this position, we're going to turn into a lordotic position, or an anterior pelvic tilt. So we want to try to tilt the pelvis into a flat back position. So we're pulling up on the front of the body and dropping your tailbone. That opens up where this muscle, your quads, attaches onto the hip bone, whereas that shortens it. So we want to keep that position open. So however you get into that position, you've got the foot up behind, then you're trying to flatten. Now as you can see, whenever I do that, it pulls my knee forwards because it's trying to lengthen it. So my body initially wants to come out of the stretch. It tries to find ease. So I need to pull the leg in behind. So I'm using my hand to pull that behind. I now can feel it stretching up through the top and a little bit down through the lower section of the quads as well. So as I'm holding through there, the standing leg can certainly bend a little bit if that feels more comfortable, but just not collapsing at the hip. So if you find that that is not enough of a position, then you have that option as well of bending the standing leg a little bit more and taking it even further. And that way again, sussing it out, what does your body tell you, to find where you need to be to get the stretch to a level that feels appropriate for you. Somewhere between that 5 to 7. Again, watch the video on how to stretch, that gives you more information on what you should be doing in stretching. Well, at least my suggestions based on my research and based on my experience can always be controversial in terms when you say this is the only way. It's not the only way. But in terms of the stretches, what I'm putting across is taking it easy. It's a muscle that's tight, it needs a little bit of TLC. You take your time, you go into it, you feel what it's telling you, and you find that level 5 to 7 in terms of that stretch sensation. So that again, as you're holding it and you're on your second side, hopefully, you're finding knee underneath the hip, you're finding that lengthen through the back, you're taking the foot up behind, maybe softening the standing leg, taking the leg further behind. And as you go through each of those stages, you'll figure out whether those stages are not good for me and you only take it to whatever is appropriate. But whenever you find those levels that feel appropriate for you, you wait there until it eases. And then maybe you take it a little bit further, wait for that to ease, and maybe further a third time. And that's generally if we're trying to open up a range, the length of time that you would need to hold it for. It's not a set number. It is, in terms of time, it's about what your body, the information that your body tells you in terms of your stretching. When it eases, then that's your sign that your body's accepted the stretch. So hopefully you find this useful, and certainly give it a go, see if that loosens out the quads, especially if you're out and about, if you're running, if you're not handy to a mat, then it's a good stretch to add in, especially even in terms of a workplace. If you've been seated a lot through the day, get yourself up, that'll open up through the hips as well as in through the quads, which typically you're being shortened, especially on that top end. A little bit of lengthen through there, but it's not a useful length. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Click like if you have, and also then leave us a comment and maybe some suggestions as well of other content that you'd like to see. You can certainly subscribe to get more content notified if you click on the receiving notifications option, and that way then we can give you that little bell and you'll know when we've uploaded more content. So thanks for watching, and have fun with that quad stretch.